let's talk about sweatn. So the song "Sweatn" by marien is a song in quarter time, which simply means that there are 4 partial quarter notes. The kicker, however, with this song is that it's in 5, meaning the rate is in 5 quintuplets. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So essentially you have an upbeat, a downbeat, an upbeat, a downbeat. And technically you can really go upbeat, downbeat, right? And link them like that. Or just have one big upbeat, one big downbeat. That's what's fun with quarter time, is that it allows you to have a lot of room to play across the bar line, and if not entire systems, 4 times, right? So since this song is in 4 and it's in quintuplets, the first thing you're gonna want to do is really learn the relationship between 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that you've gotten used to bringing your single roll into a bleeding in and out of rates, the next thing that you're going to look at is taking that quintuplet grid with just a single roll and adding your bass drum and accents. So we're going to do the most pragmatic thing, and we're going to do a bass drum on each one to really get the feel of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to grid the accents with our open hi-hat, because sweating has a lot of displaced open hi-hats. I kept the wire on here, and it trips me out. Like, this is a cool trick. Like, I've seen some guys actually do entire clinics with their wire bugging them. All you have to do is put it under the leg, right? So those are all of the partials, all of the possibilities. So now we're looking pretty good to actually look at the song itself. So sweatn, it starts, and he seems like he's pretty much waiting on the waters of pondering. And the click's going, and he's just pretty much playing 4s, and we're not even thinking about our quintuplets yet. And then the quintuplet click hits. And right away he goes to doubles. So it's pretty much doing your quintuplet grid and then doing 2 notes each one. So just practice doing that. Right? So now that you've done that, you're going to start seeing that the point of doing that is you're calibrating yourself to the quintuplet grid. So now that Dana is fully in the quintuplet grid, what's the first thing that he does once he does his first fill? Because he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's the first thing he does? And then the next one, the first thing he does is the most counterintuitive thing you'll ever see. But I mean, I had one lesson with him, and it's one of the two things that he showed me of this song, which has balance. But essentially, the first thing he played in front of my eyes, which is the first thing he plays in the video too, is a shuffle. Right? A shuffle. Who would have thought that? Right? A shuffle. So you're gonna want to get used to playing that, right? Running your through the quintuplet grid. And that's what's going to become useful to you, is you're going to realize that some of your ones fall on the ghost note. And that's kind of like the secret to getting a better half-time shuffle, is to invert your shuffle. Instead of, and me for my whole life, I used to play it like this, instead of, but the hippest way is we're going to play an inverted shuffle, right? Right? And doing that is going to get you to control your shuffle a lot better. So now that you've done that, the next thing you're going to do is learn paradiddle 5. Paradiddle 5. And the next thing, we're going to apply it to our quarter time. Upbeat, downbeat, upbeat, downbeat, downbeat, upbeat, downbeat, upbeat, right? So our downbeat, we're just gonna match our right hand the first time. And then the second bar is where our snare is. And you can do the same thing, or you can do one of the variations. You know, and just every other variation therein. So that feels great. And now, the next time that you do a double, you're going to take that chance to do double flams. Because double flams is the other thing that is mostly used in this song by like Dana. And everything else is either glue, a bridge towards some bigger moment, or just a displacement, right? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna scope at that. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so how does that feel? Now, if that feels weird for you, go back to the initial grid, but with Flamtaps. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Now that feels good, one of the coolest lines that Dana does is, right? So flam tap, then another flam tap, but just one kick. So, and now, right? And you're going to start noticing the more and more he plays this song that the hi-hat is sort of used as a rest and a way of bordering an upbeat or a downbeat and creating tension or release thereof. So whenever you find yourself in a displacement that's kind of weird, open that hi-hat. your stickings are gonna start mirroring, because that's the way that's gonna make the most sense. You're gonna border one with the hi-hat, you're gonna border another one with a snare, right? And now, the more that you're doing these Flamtaps, the more that it's gonna let you utilize more of your flam stuff. So the next thing that you do that Dana taught me was to put Flamtaps as static. That's not what I meant. Ratamacues as static, right? But in 5. And you want to be careful with these. You don't want to do it in a 6 or an 8. It has to be a quintuplet. There's a gracefulness to it. It's in quintuplets. Right? So now that you've pretty much played just a few bars of this song, and it's already got you going from a shuffle, which isn't that far from the paradiddle 5, you know, mind you, but at first it's gonna seem like worlds away, you know. And what starts to happen is these really hit fills that are actually not that hard. They actually start taking away some of the rhythmic density of the song by going to one thought idioms based on 3. So they're kind of like a bottom triplet, but they're really more seen as one flam that has 3 notes away, you know? So as a flam has 2 notes, right? This one has 3. So you can view it that way, or really, you know. Anyway, so you're doing that and you go downbeat, upbeat. So upbeat and downbeat, you use it there, especially on an upbeat when you're not expecting it. So on a downbeat, sorry. Right, so that is going on, and the next thing is that the background music is gonna start to have these figures going on. And you're gonna start to deconstruct your Flamtaps and your Ratamacues, and you're gonna do them on the toms and your hi-hat. This is in the 80-20 drummer lesson, but he explains it kind of different, and it's not the same way, but it's pretty much the same thing, right? So if like you're going right, and you're and then all of the chords is where you use those landmarks to put your like accents. So Harrison's The Sound of Music, you know, where before he goes into the second chorus, it goes one of the blunders of this world, right? So it's pretty much doing that, but in sweatn, right? So you're still going, you know, and you're doing different melodies. whole solos doing that fast. Right? Start using some of that stuff in your gospel shreds. So now the song is progressing and you know how to do your weird kind of less dense fills. You kind of know how to do your straight on fills, right? So some of your straight stuff, that's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So the next thing that you can do is run your through the quintuplet grid. So Johnson and either doing or the left version of that, and that creates some really high level phrasing. And the next step is if you're not in the 7 rate but the 5, there's actually room to add a note, so you can go 1, 2, 1 and add 3 where there was 2. So then it becomes like 5 cubed, and that's pretty dang. So now you're kind of learning how to do fast fills, and the song is progressing. And I want to talk about one thing. If some of this stuff is too weird as of now, there's one system that will not fail you, and it's right accent, right ghost, but ran through the quintuplet grid. There's always a catch, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do it like that and sort of throw in some cool stuff while learning to hold that stuff for an entire song. Because you can probably do this. Right? So now that we've addressed that, the song is going, the fills are becoming more based around a punch. But let's not panic too much, because the punch is friendly, right? The punch is on 1, and it's right. So now the more that you're playing, the less you're gonna have to care about that background chordal running up and down, and it's gonna become more the bigger chords. So now that you're doing that, you're shredding, right? And the bass solo is coming. So you're gonna have to be ready to go from that to a more dynamic, rich kind of setting that's more composed. So the way that you're gonna go in is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punched on all 3 limbs. But I find it smarter to punch with all 4 limbs, because then this is going into clicks rate. Right? Now that you're doing that, we're going to talk about one of the hippest cats around, Peter Haas, Haas. I saw him, and he was doing this Swiss exercise, and it was a Swiss triplet, right? Accenting every 5. So, right? Accenting every 5, and then there would be, and then you do it again, right? Works exactly like the shuffle. Well, he was doing that, and when I saw it, I instantly knew, oh my God, that's the foundation of the bass solo in sweatn. And it really is. I mean, you run a Swiss triplet through the quintuplet grid. But I was doing it a different way that I've developed, that I want to show you, that I throw in as well. It's based off triple flam. It sounds really good, and it's pretty much the same thing. Like, that was me trying to sound like Steve Smith in Vital Technos when he does and Swiss triplets, and it sounds like there's fills and a roll going on at the same time. That was my first attempt at trying to emulate some of that stuff. You know, and that's what it sounds like, you know, a roll with the 2 rolls at the same time. And the other way that you could use this is the negative version of that, where the accents are on the snare. And that gets you more into a samba vibe, like Terry Bozzio. Where you're doing the same thing and you're pretty much finishing off your samba patterns with flams within a more basic right, and then I would add flam. And it becomes the full thing. There's that, and then there's his samba, but on the offbeats, right? And that's how you play that. The fundamentals of samba usado. So now that we talked about that, bring this back to sweatn. So you're playing, and you're gonna want to come to the bass solo, and the bass solo is hip. It's one of Evan's hippest. This one is one of the hippest. I think you could say Looking Glass is one of the hippest by far, you know, like there's a few that are just beyond. Renaissance, another one is, that one is hip. And they're all kind of the same, these kind of things that we're talking about now. So here we go. And now let's talk more about the Swiss stuff. Because the more that you look at this tune, the more you think, my God, did someone just hand Dana a Swiss march? Because when you look at Klaus, and I encourage you, look at Klaus Hessler. He built his cousin Anika Niles into a monster, right? A beast. And if you look at the Swiss stuff, you're going to realize that there actually is a lineage between Swiss, German, and French sharing their battle drummer traditions. And then why do you think CERN is in between France and Switzerland, right? So let's just start with Switzerland, and I'll show you the Swiss stuff, and then we'll go back to some cool little thoughts. So one of the things that these Swiss guys love to do is the final of 7. And then you have the double where you diddle twice loud on the third partial. And this is tricky because you never do this. And this is, it brings us back to that battle drumming, right? Like, this is like the Swiss guys were playing a quintuplet with 2 diddles and 3 accented notes within the same figure at blazing speed, trying to scare the other army, right? And then if you take that to the drum set, and it really sounds like Phrygian or some like really frantic. All it is. Alright, so that's super dense. And then another framework that you have to work with is like building that. So da with diddles. See? Those things kind of fit within one another, right? Which is what you'll find about most of the Swiss stuff. And they do the double flams and the quintuplets and all of that cool stuff. So now that you've done that, the next thing that I want to show you is flamfives and how that can relate to Flamtaps as well to create a cool and 1AB epic gradative scale of intent, right? So the way that the flam 5 is flam on your first double and then a 5-stroke roll. So that's pretty much one flam tap technically, right? You can view it as that or just one flam. But it is a flam tap, you know. So you know, why not make both of the flam taps? So let's go from just the 5 to the flam to the double. All right. So let's start with the double. Pretty cool. So the next thing that we're gonna look at is making our quintuplet grid and putting a 9-stroke roll in it. So accent double 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 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Right? So if on the rim we go hard. You can displace that, right? And the other thing that you can do is this. Right? That's 1 2 1 2 and then 3 diddles. Right? And all of this stuff flows in so beautifully. back to Swiss and just talk about how crazy these dudes are and devoted to drumming. So these dudes wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, dressed like some kind of Nephilim, evil jester, clown, order of the jester vibe, you know, Twin Peaks, Bob Dabalina and Zigzags. Anyway, and these guys, they wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they shed this quintuplet stuff, you know, on these giant drums, they're Basel drums, to tell the town, like, the carnival has arrived, right? Like, the elves found a new way to say hooray, right? And all of that jazz. So, these cats are really doing this, and it's just hilarious because, like, the more you look into the tradition of circus and carnival, and they even have a statue there called the baby eater statue where the dude's eating babies. He has his little funny hat. It's wild, right? And the more that you look at, like, this kind of tradition, you start to see that there might be some, like, occult significance with, like, playing quintuplets, and that we might all be, like, trying to call, like, the fallen gods by shedding them and playing sweating. And that's kind of absurd. But, I mean, go and do your day digging, and you're going to come out of it surprised. I can guarantee you that. So now that your bass solo is going, and it's going to eventually come back. And this part is cool because it's kind of a free part, right? Where you can do big fills, you can stick to groove, you can really be whoever you want to be there. But there's some cool stuff that you can do, you know? So one thing you can do is run 6s or 11s or 7s within your quintuplet grid. So that's cool. You know, like, all of that stuff becomes fair game. There's one thing that we forgot to talk about is all these big fills. What is the system? How can we conceptualize this to make it easy and to make sense? Well, the way that I do it is kind of like trampolining or doing skateboarding. You do a trick, and then you come back down to your baseline, to your foundation. And then every now and again you pop up and do stuff, and it's like the Prince of Persia vibe, you know, where you're freezing time, going backwards, forwards, rewind. It becomes a very auric and imaginative and almost narratively laced thing, you know, within the mind and heart and soul. So the more that you realize this, the more you're going to realize that guys that get caught up in their solos and can't solo for long is they've lost their balance. I can solo for 10 songs, watch something going, and there's actually music. I can solo forever. It's all about not losing your balance. But let's go back to sweating and not just random noodling. So one of the things that you're going to view is with this trampolining system, it's going to be more dialed than that. You're going to look at the rate, right? And the rate, you're going to go 1 up. So if you're in 5, it's going to be 6. Because remember, this song is technically 4/4. So all your hip hop stuff and your sextuplet stuff becomes fair game if you go 1 rate higher. So you're playing paradiddle 5, and the thing that makes the most sense that I see him doing too is playing naningo, paradiddle, because it's the same thing, right? You have a down beat, then your up beat, quarter time shreds. So since you have that going on, And now, that brings us to the next point, that why not throw in sevens? So what's an easy way to throw in sevens? Paradiddle 7, right? So that is The Dreaming Tree by Dave Matthews Band, and a lot of other songs that showcase 7 in quarter time. So if you're in sweatn, right? And now let's talk about the crazy thing that Scott Pilgrim just showed us, that Johnny Rab supposedly showed him. I mean, I have Rab's DVD. It's not in my DVD. I sure wish it was. But they call it their drum and bass thing, and that's how they use Paradiddle 5. But they use it in more of an Anika Niles, an upbeat and a downbeat every quarter note. So it could be 1, it could be 2 or 3, you know, like. So the way that they do it. So if you're already playing that, you just have to go from 5 to 8, which is just 3 more, right? So. And you can start throwing in drum and bass stuff now, and really spastic drum and bass stuff off of the sticking. That's your main backbone of this song. That's a great way to just fuel into your 8s and start to do other stuff, right? It's just a doorway into your 8s, and then you can go back, right? Because it's the same sticking, so you just dial back down, and you're bordering your upbeats and downbeats with open hats that are displacing. The one that I showed you, the 4, sounds super dank. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that one works great. So you're doing all of this cool stuff, right? And all of a sudden, the song starts to bring back those punches. Right? And these go on for quite some time. So the way that I like to do it is I like to spend some time on my hi-hat while I'm punching. Sometimes on the ride bell while punching. And then sometimes shredding while punching. Now, the best takes is when I punch them all the time. But even Dana doesn't punch them all of the time. And what, like... But you should, right? And it sounds better, and it's just the way to do it. And then the song ends with those punches. It goes. So now, let's look if we talked about everything that we wanted to up till now. Alright. So, it's important. Well, there's one thing that we're going to talk about after. Alright. So, the thing is, let's go back to our paradiddle 5, and let's become more free with it so we can play within the song. So we're going to grid snares and bass drums around. And that's an important one, from 5 to 1, because sweatn has that a lot. and you want to move around your kicks and your snares so you can put your snare everywhere. Right? See, that's one line that Dana does early on. See? And because he's the displacement king, right? Like, that's what he's about. That going on, which is sweet within itself. Another thing that we can start doing, right, is putting our Flamtaps in cool ways that make us sweat and have to figure out how to get out of that particular situation, vector, position, whatever you want to call it, right? So you're going, and let's say we use an inverted double as our tool, and is where we're going to start our Flamtap in quintuplets. What's cool is that you can start to really think about it like Gavin and Porcupine Tree Sentimental, and doing a giant four cycle rhythm that moves around, that's really big, and throw in some 11s, some 7s, some 5s, and eventually when it comes around, you're gonna have to take one off or add one. You know, it's gonna still, the math in displacement will always add up back to one. I mean, eventually, right? You're either gonna be one away or one to it. And even if you move 3 away and 2 away, 5 away, there's gonna be a point where you're either one before or one, or you have to take one away, right? When position becomes exact, right? Perfection. So you can do that there, and it works good. Song, right? So we've done that, 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 so we've done that. So now it's time to talk about some other things. So another thing that we can use quintuplets that I want to show you. So doing that is really cool, running bongo bell from you can do that with paradiddles. 6, because if you look at it, the first part is 7/4 basic. And Sharik, the way that he plays it, that Crybaby Kaz had Zildjian delete because it's better than his. It's in Sextuplets. Right, and he does this and stuff, and it's in 6 tuplets, and he just does some cool stuff and does little displacements and little linear things. And then the outro calibrates it, and then he trampolines and changes rate to 7 and plays none other than the Ningo. But in septuplets, so now the grouping of 6, 12, right? It's gonna displace 6 times before it gets back to 1. And then you do the same thing when you start to let in some toms. And then you do the same thing when you let in the ride and toms. And then just toms. And then just unison toms. And then keep going, and you're pretty much at the end, and you're gonna get to the punch, which is it's a very similar song, and it's all the same thing, and I do the same thing. I start to nest, trampoline, whatever you want to say, bleeding rates, quintuplets, 6s, 7s, you know. It sounds really great in that song. It just works. Like, it's one of those songs that allows you for that chipped away feeling, you know, and that's really cool. Like, and now the next thing that we can do is go back to sweating and this song and look at new language. So a cool one is a Flamtap, diddle, diddle, diddle. And then take away some of the diddles and replace it for an accent. Right? And the 7 version of that. And what's cool about the 7 version is it brings us to Mike Johnson's song Be a 4, and he does the Flamtap and this new version that I'm going to tell you, which is just changing Flamtap for see, and it's that cool ride stuff. Useful, especially in sweating, because anything that mirrors becomes useful to you in this song. So you don't have to invert it, but you can force one, and then instead of going back, you just force the inversion. All of your flam stuff becomes super useful in these songs. So, I mean, that's pretty much the song, right? Like, with all of these pieces, you for sure can find a way to play the song. Like, when I first played this song, I played it with this bass guy that my ex-girlfriend knew once. He was a schizo, but he could actually play bass. Like, he stole a tattoo gun. He was a weirdo, but we played this song, and back then I had just started to learn how to play this song, and I played it just in singles, and it still sounded hip. Anika taught, right? Which we talked about ours, right? About the drum and bass one, but we didn't touch on hers. So what is hers? Right? It's just having a snare each time. Right? And that's pretty cool. But it's not sweating, right? But you can start doing a little bit of that inside this. But it sounds way more prog. It sounds more like Tigran, you know. It sounds more square compared to this song. It really has a quintuplet swing. So let's get back to quintuplet swing and where it comes from, right? So if we know that France and Swiss have a deep connection where they would share back and forth, like the final of 7 in French is called a raté sauté de 5 and a raté sauté de 5 double, right? Your final of 7, right? But how does this relate to sweating, right? Like Dana Hawkins is a Haitian dude and his dad was a pastor at a church. It has nothing to do with seeing the Swiss drumming. But that's where you're wrong, friend, because the French colonized Haiti, right? And Haitians for sure brought all that language with them of French drumming and marching band, because most people don't realize that before pop and all this stuff, what people were hearing was marching band and snare drum. And carnival music, which is still marching band, which is still snare drum. So these Haitian cats, if you look at stuff like Louisiana and New Orleans, a lot of that stuff, it seems like some say, oh, it's this sloppy vibe, but Claus goes deeper and he's like, it's kind of like this halfway to quintuplet vibe, this Swiss French imprint, and through that lens playing jazz. Like we talked about the finesse of the Ratamacue. Talk about something more New Orleans than that, and you just can't, you know? Like it pretty much explains itself, you know? There's a deep connection, and that's why if you pick up a Watchtower book in Creole, Tour de Gad, it looks like French with a bunch of W's and S's. And this brings us to Ephraim Toro, the master of feel, which tells us that the way that we talk and our vocal and our nationality's vocal accent is the amount of frequencies that we hear and listen from, and it's why something like Bembe and Naningo can feel completely different, and therefore seem to sound different even though they're the same exact thing. Because one of them is hearing it through the lens of 5 and the other through the lens of 6. One of them is hearing through the lens of 3, the other one the lens of 4. And this changes everything, you know, playing and 1, 2, 3, 4, but let's count 7. What's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference? Right? And being able to do that is kind of important if you're going to tackle more of Evan's songs, like Looking Glass. It's all punches. You're gonna have to sit there and hit all those punches and try to figure them out. It's gonna take time because there's no way you can learn that song while playing drums. But it's a dope song, and like I told you, the bass solo is hip and it's a 7/4. That's going not die for it. But it's slow enough that instead of playing 4, you can start sometimes sixes and fives, you know. Like, it's a great song to play. Like, so, is there anything else that five does? Well, I guess we can talk about Aaron Spears, the late Aaron Spears, and his take on Radiohead's 15 Steps. There's that. And then the other part is just your paradiddle 5. Paradiddle 5. And then a 5-stroke roll. From 4 to quintuplets to 6 to 7 to 8, or the fast 3, which is 9. And this song, since it's in 5, you can even go to the 10, right, which is just your double time 16 notes. And from there, the 11 is close, and then you have 12, which is like your like most max speed, you know. Some will go to 13 or like the 17 tuplet, you know, like 33 notes inside your roll style. But that's not really a big deal. So roll. Right, that's a cool one. Like, there's so much cool stuff that you can do within this song. It has space for it, and Dana pretty much does it flawlessly. Like, it's all about having the right ratio of crazy fills, and then the actual groove, you know, and having your fills even be groove. And that's what kind of this song makes you work on, is that your groove and your fills are the same language, and it will get you really used to, like, you know, the differences between those things and what it takes to play weirdo versus hi-hat versus tom versus click and tom versus, you know, ride versus both of your hats, you know. And it's gonna make you work just on everything from your time to your soloing and fills to your groove to your pocket. And I mean, the whole time the click is going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, so you're forced to count. That's pretty cool. That's cool in itself, right? So let's see, did we get everything? Adding that. I think so. So you see, that's how you play sweatn. And I mean, it sounds like a mouthful, but It's really not. And I mean, I'm telling you some of the stuff that he's shown me, some of the stuff that I discovered myself, some of the stuff that I've seen other guys do that I realize is in the song, some of the stuff that's not in the song that I find works well, some of the stuff that can be training wheels towards the song. I mean, no one has any excuse to not play the song, right? Like, and the next thing you like can do is start playing entire phrases from other things and other songs into the quintuplet grid. Actually is one of the easiest ways to do a solo in this song. Let's go back to our Flamtaps and double tap and triple flams is 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4, right? 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Can do that kind of stuff. Like that, fast and busy sounds cool, right? Kind of stuff, and it gets cool. And if, like, let's say we want to make it an offbeat, just add a kick, right? Right, and then add two kicks. Another thing you can do is take that accent thing. That's slow. Anything through your quintuplet grid, and if it's in time, it's gonna sound killer. You know, I can do it with some though. It just everything sounds dope when you do it that way, right? For a little bit, let's talk about songo and 7, right? So. Quintuplets and sweatn. So my tooth is hurting, so I thought I'd try my lesson again instead of setting with the hurt tooth and getting nowhere. So I want to see more people play sweatn. Let's go.